and safeguard themselves from such scams. Make sure to only use verified apps and websites. Think twice before answering any suspicious phone call or replying to dubious emails. Always double check authenticity of a company and don't pay the price for the promise of a job. Remember, it could be too good to be true.
Ultimately, the thought process is very clear. They want to generate money from the Indian market. They want to target the hapless, innocent Indian user who wants to potentially see hope in these kinds of apps. And then this money gets to be used for a variety of purposes, including against the national interest and the national security of India.
While India is transforming digitally, there needs to be greater awareness among the public. Otherwise, they will easily fall prey to the growing web of cyber crimes. For CNN News 18, this is Yash Goyal.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. Amid sloganeering and uproar over Rahul Gandhi's UK speech, day 5 of this budget session today was also washed out. Both houses of parliament were adjourned within half an hour till Monday, following some fireworks. The BJP is up in arms, seeking Rahul Gandhi's apology over his remarks on democracy in London, while the opposition created a ruckus in parliament, demanding a JPC in the Adani Hindenburg route. Congress continues to stay defiant and has made it clear no matter what, Rahul Gandhi is not going to apologize. While the BJP is also in no mood to relent, and they seem to be preparing for Gandhi's suspension from the House now. Leaders of several opposition parties, in fact, staged a dharna at Gandhi's statue in Parliament over the Adani issue and raised slogans against the government. Sonia Gandhi, Mallikarjun Kharge, Rahul Gandhi also joined in. But even as the BJP pushes a privilege motion against Rahul Gandhi, the stakes were raised by Congress by filing a counter motion of sorts against none other than the Prime Minister for, quote, insulting the Gandhis. Is this battle getting uglier? Has it already become too ugly? And is this just for show, really, while stalling Parliament? Or are parties really serious about the motions that they're moving against each other? We'll take those questions to our guests in just a bit. So the Congress has upped the ante against the government, and the BJP Congress MP Venkatesh moving a privilege motion against the PM for alleged derogatory remarks against Congress leaders Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi. Remember, this is over the Prime Minister's dig at the Gandhi family, asking why they don't use Nehru surname. So Congress's Venugopal in his motion has claimed that the Prime Minister made derogatory remarks against Sonia and Rahul, that he knows that the surname of the father is not taken by the daughter, and his tone and tenor of the remark was insinuating. They have claimed this is a breach of privilege and a contempt of House. Remember, this is coming after BJP has not only been demanding an apology by Rahul Gandhi, but also his termination from Lok Sabha over his speech on Prime Minister Modi during a discussion on the motion of thanks for the President's address, which was on the Adani Hindenburg row. BJP MP Nishikant Dubey had moved a privilege motion against Rahul Gandhi, accusing him of being a habitual offender. He said in his motion that Rahul Gandhi made misleading, derogatory and unparliamentary remarks against the PM. The Jharkhand MP presented his case, saying an MP may make a comment on a fellow parliamentarian only with prior notice and not without the Speaker's approval. Dubey said casting doubt on the Prime Minister's actions undermines democracy itself, and he said that Rahul Gandhi's speech is still available on the latter's Twitter and YouTube handles despite being expunged by the Speaker, which is an undermining of the Speaker's authority and discretion. As far as statements from Rahul Gandhi go, even as he launched a counter-attack on the government yesterday, saying he should be allowed to respond in Parliament, there was another faux pas of sorts that became an embarrassment for the party. That's when Rahul Gandhi said, "Unfortunately, I am an MP," and had to be cautioned by the Congress media cell head Jairam Ramesh to measure his words.
Unfortunately, I'm a member of Parliament.
Unfortunately, I'm a member of Parliament. You can make a joke saying this. Unfortunately for you.
Ek minute, please. See, I want to make it clear. Unfortunately for you, I'm a member of Parliament.
So a redoing of that entire line. But the big battle that we're focusing on today is really the big Congress versus BJP fight. It's motion versus motion. It's insult versus insult. Why is this fight getting so ugly and where is it headed for? That debate is coming up in just a bit.
राहुल गांधी, आपको देश के खिलाफ इस पाप के लिए देश की जनता से माफी मांगनी ही होगी।
आपसे माफी मांगने की मांग कर रहे हैं राहुल जी, सब लोग कह रहे हैं माफी मांगो।
खुद ही वो पहले से एंटी नेशनल है और कोई माफी मांगने का सवाल नहीं है। हम जमकर उत्तर इसमें पार्लियामेंट में देंगे। राहुल गांधी जी को अगर मौका मिला जरूर सारी बातें वहां पर बताएंगे।
Let's go across to the guests who are joining us. Shaina NC from the BJP, Lavanya Balal from the Congress Party. Hemant Attri and Shikha Mukherjee, senior journalists, also joining us on the show. I thank you all for your time. Lavanya Balal, this motion that has been moved by the Congress Party against the Prime Minister, it seems like an afterthought. Are you doing this as a tit for tat?
Absolutely not. I think it was a very necessary step. I mean, for far too many times, Prime Minister Modi has made quite a few derogatory comments about Sonia Ji, be it Jarsika or Congress ki Vidwa and Bachada and all of that stuff. He's made it multiple times. Somewhere one needs to put a stop to it because it brings, it brings the dignity of the PM's office down. So it was very essential to take this action.
The reason I asked you the question that this seems like a belated action is because you've only done it now, even though these comments were made in the previous session of the budget session. But let me bring in China NC here. This is what the Congress's central message is. They can do what you can do too. It's not like insults have come only from one side. Even as you try to corner Rahul Gandhi over what he has said on Indian democracy, not even in Parliament but outside, although I know you have moved a motion against him over his remarks against the PM, which have already been expunged. But it's not like insults are coming from only one side, China NC.
Look, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has not just made derogatory comments about the Prime Minister, but about India's democracy. If you go back in time, what he said overseas, where he defamed India, defamed the process of a vibrant democracy, defamed the agencies that work independently, defamed women's security by suggesting that we are some backward, remote country that does not respect women. All of these are factually untrue. Then cut to coming to Parliament. I want to ask two questions. If he has serious questions to ask, please by all means as a member of Parliament raise it on the floor of the House. But just by doing theatrics, photo optics, sensational commentary, you don't achieve any purpose. And if you're going to be a habitual offender where you constantly make all these kinds of sensational commentary, then people of India are going to laugh at you, sir. I want to say that what is the choice today for the Congress party? It has no vision plan, it has no leadership, so it's only resorting to theatrics and optics.
But
And
you
the
didn't answer my
Bharatiya Janata
question.
Party, on the other hand, has the most charismatic Prime Minister.
China, you didn't answer my question about insults. Insults have come from both sides. If you take umbrage over what Rahul Gandhi says,
insults
over Prime Minister inside
I want to
Parliament,
ask you a simple
what about
question.
what BJP leaders say, including the PM?
You're talking about insults. Insulting the office of the constitutionally elected Prime Minister of this country is an insult to every Indian. You are questioning the Prime Minister who is voted by 135 crore Indians. And if you cannot uphold the dignity and respect of his post, and the fact that this is not just the leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party but the leader of the country, that is completely different to the kind of barbs which the Congress party have thrown at us.
Okay,
Do
Lavanya
understand
Malal
that
wants to
if
come
you
in.
have a situation...
Shivani,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, does the dignity of the Prime Minister's office get upheld when he makes comments in China and South Korea that I don't know what kind of sin I had committed to be born as an Indian? What kind of country is this? Ye koi log hai? These were the comments he had made both in China and in South Korea and in multiple other countries. Does the dignity of the PM's office not get lowered when he calls a woman, a 75-year-old MP, as a Jersey cow, or as a Congress ki vidwa, or he calls another MP's wife as 50 crore ka girlfriend? What kind of dignity are we talking about? He is not voted by 135 crores of people, but yes, he's our Prime Minister, and we expect our Prime Minister to uphold the dignity of the PM's office.
Okay. China, you want to respond to that one final time before I go across to our other two guests also?
I just want to make 2-3 points. One is, what are we as a nation? We are a vibrant democracy, diversity, unity in diversity, all kinds of counter opinions which are welcome. You agitate, you protest, you come up with questions, you come up with your vision plan, which obviously he doesn't have, or the Congress party is absolutely devoid of, is so seen time and again. But my limited plea is that on the international platform, to defame India, to defame the constitutional democracy that has been a part of the entire working process of a most vibrant leader who is respected world over and has given India respect. That is the irony. That's the paradox.
So you are no, once again, there are two different issues here. You are saying focus on Rahul Gandhi's comments.
There are two different issues.
No, you are saying focus on Rahul Gandhi's comments on Indian democracy and institutions overseas. The Congress is saying, why not focus on the language used inside Parliament by the Prime Minister and others? I want to bring in a couple of other experts as well. Shikha Mukherjee, how do you look at the Congress moving this motion against the PM himself? I'm not sure when was the last time this happened. This is a massive escalation of their battle with the BJP currently.
See, this escalation is entirely expected. It's not surprising. These are escalations that must happen, given the fact that for 5 days, Parliament now has not functioned. Let me also say that, and I take serious objection to this business of declaring that the Prime Minister is a constitutional office. Fact of the matter remains that the Prime Minister inside the Parliament is just an MP. There is no special privileges that he enjoys as the Prime Minister inside Parliament. He's an MP, Rahul Gandhi is an MP. They're both elected representatives of this country. Both are constitutionally, they're creatures of the Constitution, because that is exactly what the Constitution created. A Parliament, and then a Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, and the Rajya Sabha. Having said that, therefore, this whole business of the Prime Minister is something privileged, something extraordinary. No, he is certainly, by virtue of the majority that he has in Parliament, the representative of his party. But
I think, Shikha, once again, can I just come in?
No. And then to go back to your question, which is that, is this escalation good or bad? Escalation has to happen if there is no debate. Unless there is a debate in Parliament, unless the opposition is allowed to speak, and this is in the nature of the Constitution itself, that the House belongs to the opposition.
Right.
Why is it that from day one of the budget session, when it reconvened, how is it that ministers were demanding that action has to be taken, and that Rajnath Singh, a senior minister of the government, he himself has been the president of the BJP, demanding that action has to be taken against Rahul Gandhi? First let the discussion happen on the floor.
Okay, can I just come in?
Attacking
Can I
on
just
the
come in,
floor.
Shikha? I want to set this matter straight for our viewers at least, because it gets a little confusing. The BJP has moved a motion against Rahul Gandhi for dragging in the Prime Minister's name personally when he was talking about the Adani issue. And actually, the BJP's contention is that as per parliamentary rules, that's not allowed. You must not drag in another parliamentarian. This is not about the PM. Another parliamentarian like this when you're making certain allegations, and they've moved a motion. Of course, the Congress party has now moved a motion saying the Prime Minister used certain language and made certain insinuations, which is also against the decorum of the House. They've moved a motion too. The third issue, Hemant Atri, is about the apology from Rahul Gandhi. That's the third other issue, of course, over which the Treasury benches have been very carefully orchestrating a ruckus in Parliament, and they've been ensuring the Parliament doesn't function. But is that not an issue that must be discussed, in the sense when a parliamentarian from India goes overseas and says there is no democracy, is seen to be asking foreign powers to do something about it?
No.
Many have contended that in itself is, and once again,
No,
Shikha ji, I'll come to you.
I think that
Shikha ji, I'll come to you.
That is an extension of what
I'll
he
come to
said.
you. Let me
There
pose
is
my
no
question
way
to
in
Hemant
which
Atri.
Rahul Gandhi actually asked for intervention.
Shikha ji,
No
I'll come to you. Let me
sensible
pose
MP
my
will do
question
that.
to Hemant Atri.
Please.
The allegation he's facing is he asked for some sort of intervention as a parliamentarian
That's an
that is
allegation.
against the oath of a parliamentarian. Is that a sufficient issue to stall Parliament on? Which is what Shikha Mukherjee is asking. Hemant Atri.
No, Shivani, this is something more, this is something beyond that. Actually, this whole saga started on 24th of January when that Hindenburg report came out, and then these better lines were drawn from there. And once the presidential address was there, and the way Rahul Gandhi was not allowed to speak, and subsequently Prime Minister was also not allowed to speak among the ruckus. The situation here is that these have not become political opponents. They are practically behaving like political enemies. That is my worry. Basically, they are political opponents, and Parliament is a platform where you can debate, discuss, dissent, and do whatever. The situation here is you are posing some kind of privilege motion against me, and I am moving against you. It will lead to nowhere. It is fifth day today, Shivani. 50 crores worth of rupees have been wasted on the Parliament proceedings without any outcome. The situation is, see, it is two sides. Basically, one side is not responsible. The way Prime Minister was not allowed to speak, he was disturbed. Earlier also, who started it? Rahul Gandhi was disturbed. And my worry is something else. 54 days from Hindenburg report till now, ours is a democratic setup. Has the government spoken a single word? Single word I am asking, which is the single biggest scam in the independent country. What kind of democracy are we talking of? This is very unfortunate.
Okay,
Shivanji.
let China MC
Situation
respond to that. Why are you not openly debating this issue, fielding questions on this issue, and not allowing parliamentarians to speak on this issue? Even when Rahul Gandhi spoke, whatever he said, parts of it were expunged by the Lok Sabha Speaker. You can have a debate outside of Parliament too. You can respond to his questions. None of his questions were actually directly responded to. Why not?
At the outset, let me say that, 5 days of Parliament being washed out is an absolute apology to the taxpayers who want a vibrant democracy to coexist with the dispensation and the opposition, both being constructive and productive. But if the Congress party thinks they can come and insult our Prime Minister and get away scot-free, that is not happening. Do understand that India's reputation on the World Forum also has been put in jeopardy because of the ill-informed imbecile called Rahul Gandhi. He has chosen to make it a personal attack on the systems
that is
in
very
place.
strong language.
It is indeed. It is very strong language
Having
indeed.
said that,
This
if
is
you are
completely
going to
unacceptable.
use, if
And
you
what
are
is
going to
this?
debate, sir, by insulting
What
our
is
Prime
this?
Minister, expect the same back.
No,
It
what
is
are you
not a
asking his
question
apology
of your
for? Are you
prerogative or
asking his
you have a
apology
vision plan.
for what he
If
said
you
on the
have-
Prime
as you
Minister?
have-
Shaina ji, are you asking his apology for
Of
what he
course
said
he
on the
should
Prime Minister?
apologize.
But then the
Of
Congress
course
has the
he
right
should
to say the Prime
apologize.
Minister has
Why
made
shouldn't he?
equally offensive statements. Or I thought you were asking his apology for what he said overseas about Indian democracy.
Hello.
He didn't talk about the Prime Minister there.
This is exactly what I'm saying. He talked about the institutions. He said it's a dictatorship. Who is he directing that to? He has said it's a dictatorship. Who is he directing that to? He has said this is not a democracy and all other world democracies should be worried about what's happening in India. Does this not warrant an apology? I question.
Shivani,
Does
Lavanya
this not
wants to
warrant
respond.
an apology when you're
Shivani,
defaming
may
your
I
own
make
country?
Yes,
on the
Shikhaji,
internet
I'm coming to you.
platform?
Shikhaji,
And
I'm
you
coming to you.
believe
Let
that you can
Lavanya
carry on and
respond.
speak what
One
you
at
want
a
to
time,
in
please.
Parliament
One at a time.
and
Lavanya,
just
please. Lavanya.
May I
constantly
make an
make sure it's a
observation,
washout?
Shivani?
Yes, Shikhaji, I'm coming to you. Lavanya, please respond.
Yeah, Shivani, I want to make it very clear. It is malinformation being spoken by China NC. Rahul Gandhi has clearly said in England that he does not want any outsiders to interfere with Indian democracy. There was a question asked and he's answered it. It is on video. The BJP is misinforming the nation with malified intentions. Having said that, Shaina ji does not answer the question of why they are not allowing a JPC to happen. If they agree for a JPC, the proceedings can of the parliament can proceed. Why are they stopping that? On what rights are they switching off the mics of the MPs and the mics of the the TV relay that is happening when the session is going on? Isn't that a threat to democracy that you're muting the mics of opposition leaders, you're muting the TV channels when the proceedings are being
Can
followed?
I come in? Two things. Before I let everyone respond, two things. One, Rahul Gandhi eventually said, no, I don't want any foreign intervention. This is an internal matter. We will deal with it. But that was an afterthought. Let's not hide the fact that he said that separately in a later interview. Secondly, as far as mics and all are concerned, is it also not the responsibility of the opposition to not do continuous ruckus and sloganing while there is debate happening? You wanted the PM to speak. When the PM was speaking, you were doing constant sloganeering.
Shivani, not allowing an elected MP to speak itself is a threat to democracy.
Like who?
Please tell
Rahul
me
Gandhi spoke. Who wasn't allowed? Rahul Gandhi spoke on the Adani issue.
No, let me make it very clear. Why do they even think of switching off the mics? How
But
many
the
times
speaker has said the mics were not switched off. Who do I go by? The speaker officially has said the mics were not switched off.
Shivani, when you say Rahul Gandhi said we do not want outside interference as an afterthought, it is very incorrect. He never in the first place said
yes, you could argue that. You could argue that he never asked for foreign intervention in the first place. I give you that. You could argue that, but his statements have not been taken very well, not just by political opponents, but even others have questioned it. But Shikha ji wanted to come in, then Hemant Attri. Shikha.
Yeah, very quickly, I want to make the following points. Number one is that when the leader of the ruling party, meaning JP Nadda, says that Rahul Gandhi is an anti-national, does he realize that the whole world is looking and watching and observing his comments? Is it appropriate for the leader who is not a member of the House of Parliament, who is only the leader of a party, to declare that someone is an anti-national? Is it all right for BJP to demand, as some of them have, that this kind of person should be thrown out of the country? Do they realize that this is a world where everybody is watching and everybody is listening to everybody else?
Okay.
Secondly, if order has to be maintained in the House, then you absolutely do not create a list of unparliamentary words that actually throttle and gag an opposition from saying anything. And that is what the Lok Sabha Speaker has done.
Okay.
There is this huge list which he has created. It's a joke. Therefore, if anyone were to draw the conclusion the democracy in India is endangered, then they would be perfectly well within their rights.
Okay.
Not only
I want to take forward the point you made, Shikhaji, about these battle lines.
The other thing is that, if a BJP spokesman uses words like imbecile against a senior leader of a party, then I think it actually speaks of the culture of the party.
China NC, you want to respond to that? I have limited time. I have limited time. Please respond to that. Hemant Attri, I'm coming to you for a final response. China NC, words matter, and like I was asking you earlier, there is a high-pitched battle from both sides. You cannot argue that BJP leaders are not using offensive language for their opponents, including your comment today.
First, I want to question, when when Mr. Rahul Gandhi goes on the international platform and says India's democracy is at threat, it's become a dictatorship, and if we fall, the entire world, all the democracies should wonder and worry about it. Is that not a comment of an imbecile? I want to say, is any thinking person going to question the vibrancy of the most powerful democracy that has ever existed, which is our country? Should there not be a sense of pride there? And if you are going to ask for the apology for saying that, you know, when we talked about foreign intervention, he only came to terms with it much later as an afterthought, saying no, these are issues that we must resolve ourselves. He's questioned the independent agencies. He has questioned the integrity of the Prime Minister, who happens to be the most popular Prime Minister that the country has ever seen. And obviously these are very uncomfortable questions for people who have no vision plan and no agenda.
You didn't answer
Somebody
the question.
who has thought, read and has substantive proof of any allegation he is making is somebody who can be taken seriously, not otherwise.
Okay,
This
Hemant
is a repeat offender.
Attri, I think this debate is also testament to the fact that it's getting very bitter, it's getting very, very ugly, and it looks like, you know, this is going to be the wane for the next 1 year. As the 2024 elections come in, I don't think this is going to become more normal. This is not going to get normalized. This is only going to get more high-pitched.
Certainly, there is no doubt about it, Shivani ji. But my worry is that these kind of unfortunate turn of events, they put our democracy in a very poor light. See, what is happening now? Any countryman, any MP or any party leader, abroad or anywhere in the country or outside, he bears allegiance to the country's constitution and the country, not to any leader or to a prime minister or somebody else. One has to understand that. Whatever Rahul Gandhi has said there in London, I have heard it 3 times. What he has said, I can just quote it like that. He said that we are capable of doing whatever, facing the things, number one. And he has only alerted the European powers or America that there will be an impact on you if Indian democracy fails. And bear with me for a minute. These things, any opposition party leader going abroad, will he, once he is in a position, have you ever seen Atal Bihari Vajpayee or Advani ji, or for that matter, any political leader who doesn't speak against the ruling government because they are in a position?
But
And
overseas,
I don't think,
overseas, Hemant Attri.
No,
Yes,
obviously.
overseas, Shivani.
Vajpayee ji has been speaking, Advani ji has been speaking, everybody has been speaking. And there is nothing new that Rahul Gandhi has said. The problem with BJP is they want to take this away somewhere else. The issue is that BJP don't have any reply till date in 54 days, a single word on
Adani issue. Okay.
Have you ever heard
So
of
this whole Rahul apology issue is basically
how
to
they are running
circumvent the Adani issue.
Precisely. That's what Shivani ji. That's the problem. And many leaders from BJP till date in 54 days, have any leader uttered the word Adani? What kind of democracy are we talking of?
Okay, Shaina NC, now I'll give you 30 more seconds. I'm running out of time, but you must address this whole issue. The entire opposition, virtually the entire opposition, is asking for a JPC. The government must address the issue at least. Come out for a defense, with a defense, why you think the JPC is not required.
The government will definitely come out with its statement in due course of time. We are not going to be coerced and forced by a bunch of lot that has no vision plan, that has no agenda, and is constantly questioning us for that of which the investigative agencies and the independent financial institutes are already looking into and investigating. So I don't understand what this hue and cry is. First you decide you have made India into a dictatorship abroad. You have questioned the Prime Minister and said that this is the most charismatic, popular Prime Minister is a dictator. You choose to have blinkers on for all of this and expect us to give in to your demands, which anyway in normal practice, do understand this is a transparent, accountable, honest government which the whole country is proud of, and that is what is making the corrupt practices of the erstwhile dispensation
I'll say one thing. There's a difference between criticizing the current government of the day, and there's a difference between announcing to a foreign audience that there is no more democracy in India. And I think as citizens, we are allowed to have an opinion on whether that is the right statement to make overseas or not. But I'll leave it at that. I thank all of our guests for joining us. Certainly, as far as this high-pitched political verbal war is concerned, it's not going to come to an end anytime soon. Let's shift our focus to the war against TikTok now. The future of Chinese app TikTok is looking bleaker by the day. especially in the US of A. The Biden administration has now threatened to ban TikTok if the app's Chinese owners do not sell their stakes in the company. TikTok is being used by more than 100 million people in the US, and it has come under fire from lawmakers over concerns that the Chinese government could use the app to gain access to private user data or spread misinformation. TikTok has rejected the allegations of spying. It has said in a statement, quote, a change in ownership would not impose any new restrictions on data flows or access. Remember, the Committee on Foreign Investment in the US launched a national security review of the app in 2020. Former President Donald Trump tried to ban TikTok in that year, but he was blocked by courts. More recently, TikTok has been banned by certain universities, states and federal agencies over security concerns. A partial crackdown on TikTok continues globally too. The US, for example, has banned TikTok on government devices, just like New Zealand, that has also barred it from phones of lawmakers. In the UK too, ministers are banned from using Chinese-owned app on government phones. And in the EU, other European countries, Canada, Belgium, Denmark, TikTok is banned from government staff phones as well. Apart from this, there are some countries like India that have banned the app altogether. Remember, India was one of the first nations to do so, and many other countries have taken cue from us, even if they have instituted partial bans so far. So countries like Jordan, Afghanistan and Iran also have complete bans on TikTok, although in some of those countries it is for different reasons. Now, why are countries doing this? There are some major security concerns for the world over this app. China-based company ByteDance owns the social media app. In China, there is a law that requires companies to provide any personal data relevant to the country's national security when asked, and that remains an imminent threat. The app is also accused of collecting an excessive amount of data. Anyways, it's a video platform, so a lot of videos are there. Could be used, some suggest, by Chinese government to, quote, spy on users. And there are fears that it can be used as a brainwashing tool, or at least a propaganda tool if and when China wants on particular issues in particular countries. Trouble mounts for TikTok as the Biden administration, as I said, has also threatened to ban the app if Chinese owners don't divest. Will they do so or not? The clock is certainly ticking for TikTok. Will more bans follow like in India? We'll debate that next.
The Biden administration has threatened to ban TikTok if its Chinese owners do not sell their stake, the company told Reuters on Wednesday. The ultimatum, first reported in the Wall Street Journal, comes amid fears that the app could pass US user data to the Chinese government. TikTok, which is owned by ByteDance, has more than 100 million users in the US. A TikTok spokesperson told Reuters that the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States had demanded that the Chinese owners of the app sell their shares. 60% of ByteDance shares are owned by global investors, 20% by employees, and 20% by its founders, according to the journal. TikTok, which rejects the spying allegations, says it has spent more than $1.5 billion on rigorous data security efforts. On Wednesday, it added, quote, the best way to address concerns about national security is with the transparent US-based protection of US user data and systems, with robust third-party monitoring, vetting and verification. Last week, the White House backed a bill that gives it new powers to ban TikTok and other foreign-based technologies if they pose a national security threat. Biden's predecessor, Republican Donald Trump, tried to ban TikTok in 2020, but was blocked by the courts. Another hurdle would be that any US company buying TikTok would also require the approval of the Chinese government, and it's not clear that it would be granted. The White House declined to comment.
We have taken note of the relevant reports. China has always maintained that the issue of data security should not become a tool for individual countries to generalize the concept of national security, abuse national power, and powerlessly suppress enterprises of other countries. We call on the countries concerned to recognize the objective facts, effectively comply with the rules of the market economy and the principle of fair competition, and stop generalizing and abusing the concept of the national security, and provide a fair, transparent, and non-discriminatory business environment for enterprises of all countries.
Let's go across to Jiten Jain, cyber expert, joining us. Jiten, how do you look at this demand that the US is making of TikTok? that you must be divested of your Chinese investors. What do you make of that demand and TikTok's response?
See, there are three things. I think a couple of years ago, when India went down to the first COVID lockdown, we had released a report that how 40,000 videos suddenly surfaced on TikTok, which were all recorded, translated, orchestrated, directed by ISPR, and they all suddenly appeared on TikTok, and they were trying to influence thousands and thousands and thousands of people in a particular community, especially in Muslim community, to break the COVID guidelines, calling them anti-religious. They wanted people to shake hands. They wanted people to do wuzu. They wanted people to go to mosque. Idea, of Pakistan was to create a, religious conflict in India to ensure that COVID lockdown fails. Now, it's not about what ISPR was doing by these 40,000 videos. The bigger question was they suddenly appeared on a Chinese platform, and not 1, 2, 3, 40,000 videos. Now, TikTok is one platform. On that very time, you search anything related to Chinese, COVID antivirus or origins of COVID in Chinese Wuhan lab, everything was censored. You post anything about Dalai Lama or Tibet, everything is censored. So when everything about COVID's origin was censored, any news about COVID's in China was censored, suddenly they had full, allowance for ISPR to post 40,000 videos on, the TikTok.
But Jitin, is that not a danger for any side? I mean, that's something that can be argued about Twitter too.
No, so see, a company as a state policy allowing disinformation in a foreign country to destabilize a national lockdown is another thing. Second, you see, you take the example of any other platform, YouTube, Google, or Facebook. Everybody has faced allegations of conniving, with local intelligence agencies for carrying out surveillance. But at the end of the day, these countries are democracy. There is a clear process. People go to court, class action suits are filed, the laws are clear. In China, all these companies operate under Chinese Cloud Act, where these companies are not only supposed to facilitate and comply with the law enforcement requests, they're also supposed to aid in carrying out the intelligence operations. So
yes, absolutely.
Aiding in carrying out intelligence operations is dangerous. So that is why India, when it banned 215 Chinese apps, 256 Chinese apps, TikTok was in the first list. Now, US also banned it that time, but the order was struck down. And even in that time, I think Microsoft was in talks to buy TikTok. See, idea is that if there is a company, if there is a massive user base, it is, sometimes it may not be practical to ban it outrightly. So I think US is trying to either ban it or giving them an option that if you want to do not burn down the jobs, do not burn down the investments, money valuation, then sell it to a foreign owner, because they consider, like India, that TikTok is a national security risk and it will not be allowed under Chinese owners.
Okay.
Now, point number two, I want to make
Jitin,
just 1 minute.
Yeah.
Just 1 minute. The last point, in the initial opening remarks, we showed the statement of Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman, Mr. Wang Wen. I completely agree with him on this one thing, that data security should not be a pretext to weaponize everything in name of national security. And I call upon Chinese government to follow the same line and unblock apps like Twitter, Google, Facebook in China, and let Chinese people allow everything and free access to every information. Yeah. Let China not use data security as a pretext of national security, and let unblock everything.
Well, obviously, a lot of things that China says, it has to do itself, because otherwise it's just empty voices. But Adrian Mas, tech journalist, is also joining us from the UK. Adrian, what do you make of the US threat, the government's threat that you either get divested of your Chinese owners or we'll ban you? Do you think this is something that could be forced on TikTok at all? And how will China react to that?
It could certainly be done. They were fairly successful in very much limiting what Huawei could do. And now their phones effectively don't run the normal version of Android. So they have the power. The question is whether it would have any effect whatsoever. As long as it is still linked into the TikTok network, then data will still be going to China. Now, TikTok already say for their European users, an attempt to kind of calm fears, that they store the data in Europe, but they also say that they send that data to China for staff to undertake certain functions, which is, or important functions, which is extremely vague. So it doesn't really matter who owns it. It's who has control where the data goes.
And do you believe, as far as that data is concerned, there are real legitimate questions over the data that TikTok gets and what goes to China, and governments are very naturally and rightfully worried about this?
Yeah, I mean, in any internet-connected technology, if it is a risk, if it's in the hands of a country you may quite conceivably end up in an armed conflict with, particularly when they're not a democracy. And it doesn't just apply to TikTok and Huawei, who have been the main companies in the firing line. We should perhaps be concerned about other companies like Lenovo, who make a lot of laptops that are used in government as well, and Motorola, who make phones, and many other Chinese phone manufacturers. So to some extent, it's slightly odd that we've just been concentrating on two companies, really.
Okay.
The potential
maybe because of their user base,
is huge.
Okay, maybe because of their user base or just how much time people are spending and the kind of data they can collect. But I want to ask a final question to both of our guests. Adrian, why don't you go first? What is the future of TikTok?
Well, if we look at the future of I would guess, it would go the same way as every mobile, as every social media network, that it goes through a period of extreme popularity, and because kids move on, and something else new comes along, and they're trying to differentiate themselves from the previous generation and their parents, at some point it falls out of favour, and the other social media networks are all desperately trying to replicate it, actually succeed. So that would be my guess. Whether it will, certainly sentiment is building up against it, and we are increasingly falling out with China. They're increasingly getting aggressive about the South China Seas. They're facing a huge demographic crisis, which may cause an economic collapse, which would make the likelihood of a conflict so much greater. So all of those things, I think, are fairly bad for TikTok.
Yeah, bad for TikTok, and it's geopolitics, Jitin, involved with the very real data issues as far as TikTok is concerned. Everything is coming together. Do you foresee more complete bans from countries on TikTok, or partial bans like the ones we have in many Western countries today, where government officials are not allowed to use it?
You see, it's not a question of TikTok. It's a question about Chinese tech versus American tech. Who is going to dominate the world? It is a question that, are you going to trust a country with opaque system of government, complete disregard to international laws, carrying out territory grab campaigns, absolutely no clarity of law, how they operate, how these companies are operating, and, a complete disregard to privacy of data. So I think the future of TikTok is the future of Chinese tech, and that is linked to the future of Chinese PLA and CCP's action in the international sovereign jurisdictions. So in my opinion, I think India's model of getting rid of this 253, 256 Chinese apps, which were a national security threat, because see, these apps are like a double-edged sword. It's not about the influence for disinformation or, things they carry. I think these apps collect literally everything, yours and my location, photos, email IDs, what accounts you have in mobile phones. I mean, you can anytime weaponize those apps to turn a phone into a spy phone. And there can be no doubt and debate about it. It can be done with every app. So that is why probably even if the TikTok has the same features like Facebook, still TikTok is a bigger risk because of the country they're headquartered in, the ownership of that country, the data residency of that country, and the policies and actions of that country or a party which runs that country, which is absolutely, been criticized everywhere in the world. So the point is, if you allow PLA to operate business in India or Islamabad or US, probably no, only Pakistan would allow. So if you do not want to become a data colony of China, we should get rid of these Chinese apps, which are an absolute international security risk. And every country, every democracy should ban these apps. India has taken the lead. Americans are likely to follow, and Australians are likely to propagate.
Can I just add, as a final comment for both of our guests, when TikTok was banned, there was initial, as often happens, initial shock. And because of its popularity, people were wondering, oh my God, there's going to be a backlash. But, life moves on, you move on. There are some TikTok-ish apps available. There are concerns over them now emerging in India. But finally, Adrian, what would you tell, let's say in this case, especially the young people, but the public at large? Because data security in itself is becoming a big deal. We are on our phones. There is no way to avoid it. There are permissions we have to give. There is no way to avoid it to get productivity out of these To get productivity out of most of these apps, you have to allow permissions. What do? Either you then don't use them fully.
Individual productivity cannot come at the cost of national security and national.
No, I'm not talking about national security here. I'm not opposing what countries may do as a government action. I'm saying as individual users. Jitain, as individual users, how careful? One second. Jitain, Adrian, as individual users, what would you suggest to people? Because data security is something that is a problem today, and we all want some levels of privacy maintained.
It's absolutely vital people educate themselves. People pay huge amounts of attention to securing their physical security and locking their door, and usually very little attention to securing their phone and their computers. So you've got to absolutely know whose software you're installing, both on your computer and your phone. You've got to know who they are. You've got to know whether you trust them, because you're effectively giving those people access to everything. You've got to understand the permissions they ask for. On a PC, they don't generally ask for, and on a Mac, to a lesser extent, they don't ask for permission to access each class of data. So when you put something on a computer, or certainly on a PC, it can access your files, your microphone, your camera, all of those things with very little, and even if it does ask permission, it may maliciously get round that permission. So you've got to understand who they are, just like you've got to understand who the stranger is that you're letting into your house. Yeah,
I think it's about choosing the lesser evil. Ultimately, who you're choosing to give your data. As Jitain is saying that, you'd rather, the thing about TikTok is the trust value is less because of where it's headquartered and who it's owned by. Yes, Jitain, your final thoughts on this. We've been talking about how, for example, our apps are listening to us at all times, right? And that's a reality. You talk about something, the next day or the next minute you get ads for related items on your phone. So one of the big things you can do is close the microphone permission for a lot of these apps. So I'm just throwing it out there. But yes, Jitain, private security has become a, I don't know, it's become a dream now. It just cannot happen.
Shivani, these apps take every permission. It's completely their discretion what permissions they want to use and at what time they want to use, at what frequency. So these apps are like a beautiful mirror. It is one of the most beautiful things when it is in one shape, but once it is broken, it is the most dangerous weapon in the world. So once the system of security and the intent is broken, these apps are the most dangerous spying weapon in the world.
So what do we do?
And it's a question of national psychology. We as a nation will never allow ISI to operate any sort of business in India, be it a restaurant or an app or a technology company, whatever. I think we have to have the same mindset and the will towards China, that they are not our economic partners. They are not our trade partners. They are not our friends. They are a hostile country, which is a threat to our national security, and we must accordingly deal with that.
Okay, so whatever said and done, Jitain believes at least be wary of Chinese software and apps. We'll continue to figure out how to secure our data on others.
No, your channel is running a 3-hour debate today on the Chinese loan app scam frauds.
Of course we are.
It's happening every day.
I'm saying that my question to you, Jitain, was otherwise also, forget Chinese apps. Yes, we don't download Chinese apps. Data security is anyways an issue in other apps also. What do people do?
No. I mean, you can sue a company if they steal your data. You can't sue a Chinese company. Name one single company which has been sued in a Chinese court. Name one single person who has been convicted in China for data theft. In American courts, in Western courts, companies like Huawei are facing charges of data theft, espionage, patent stealing. But you see, we have to look at their conduct in every geography.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I am not disagreeing with you. Like I said, you have to be careful of Chinese apps particularly. That's the message. I do have to end it on that note. Thank you for joining us. Well, at a time when there's a huge democracy debate going on in India, there is anger that is gripping the streets of Paris as the French government passed a controversial pension reform without a vote in parliament. Lawmakers raised slogans against Macron's government and brandished placards opposing the reform. Police also clashed with protesters after President Macron decided to force his controversial pension reform without calling a vote in parliament. Thousands of people have protested the move on the streets of Paris and other French cities. Time for a very short break. On the other side, a special conversation with Venkatesh Prasad, who breaks his silence for the first time on the entire KL Rahul Rao on Twitter. Stay tuned for more on that.
Of India, and that I will faithfully discharge my duty. Now here is an MP who goes to Britain, who goes to Cambridge University in London and talks ill of the systems in India. Now during Bharat Jodo Yatra, right from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, wherever the opportunity was there for him, he spoke ill of the government, he spoke ill of the Prime Minister.
Prashnaji, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you in the middle of the argument. We'll fix your audio. I think there's a problem with your mic. I'll come back to you. In the meanwhile, the points that you've raised. Jyotimani ji.
I couldn't hear.
Yeah, there's a problem with your audio and mic. We'll just fix that for her. Jyotimani ji, I'm coming to you. Rahul Gandhi said that he has said nothing ill about the institutions of India or nothing ill about Indian democracy. Multiple issues have been raised by the opposition parties. But I ask this to you as a citizen of this country, that why is the legislative business being held hostage? There are about 3 dozen bills which are pending for some kind of consideration by the elected parliament of the day, and one adjournment after another. Isn't the opposition also to be held accountable when it comes to the constructive functioning of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha?
See, we have cooperated all along, unlike the BJP in opposition when we were in the government. See, it is the responsibility of the government to run the house smoothly when the opposition is raising a very, very important issues like corruption, crony capitalism, unemployment, a price rise, these kind of issues. When we are raising the very important issues, government is not relenting, government is not willing to discuss the issue in the floor of the parliament, government is not ready to form a joint parliamentary committee on this Adani scam. So this is where actually in the worst, today the treasury benches, the ruling party MPs itself actually stalling the house for last 2-3 days, which is unheard of in the Indian parliament.
So your core demand is of a JPC, your core demand is of a JPC. Your argument is, an allegation is of crony capitalism. You know, I have experts with me on the broadcast. Yogendra Kapoor is also.
Capitalism alone, it's a scam. It's a scam.
Yes,
it is directly involved with the Prime Minister
and allegations of quid pro quo that you've made. What is the evidence on record? Give me evidence on record.
Corruption.
And I'll take. Give me evidence on record, and then I'll take it, to the experts as well. The argument that the BJP and many experts are making is that this is only something that has been made up by the opposition parties. There may be something wrong when it comes to a private company or a private individual, but to have these allegations, sweeping allegations of some kind of quid pro quo with the government, these are unfounded. They have no evidentiary basis. What is the basis of these allegations, ma'am?
See, Rahul Gandhi ji has actually in the floor of the parliament produced the evidence to this allegation. So many media reports have come. See, yesterday, my answer to my question, the government of India has said actually there was a DRI inquiry against Mr. Adani groups, and the inquiry is completed one issue. The other issue that regarding the Indonesia import, the coal import from Indonesia, that issue is still yet to be inquiry is completed. So the inquiry is completed. Then why are you keeping it for very secret? Why don't you put it in a public domain? Why don't you take action against that? We are asking. There is a DRI. Your agency, DRI itself conducted an inquiry. There is a report. There is a wrongdoing. There is a corruption. Then why you are not acting on it? It's not we are saying. There is a report of the government is there. Why don't you table it? Why don't you make it public?
In the history of modern independent India, and I don't have to go back, too much in time. During the coal scam and the 2G scam, the Supreme Court was looking into it. There was a parallel investigation that was being done by the CBI and Enforcement Directorate. The Supreme Court was involved, and then there was a demand of the Joint Parliamentary Committee that was made by the BJP, and it was constituted also. Why can't the BJP, when in power, do the same thing? Aparajita ji.
See, the government of Prime Minister Modi is highly transparent. We don't have anything to hide, no skeletons in the cupboard. The only thing is that there are 3 petitions in the Honorable Supreme Court. And Honorable Supreme Court went to the extent of constituting a 6 members expert committee. And this has been done a couple of days back. And the expert committee consists of highly qualified people, and they are on the job. They are looking into the matter. They would examine all the aspects, and they would give a report. And after the report comes out, I think everything will be clear to
interjecting you
everybody.
there, the Supreme Court
Yes.
committee is on the larger regulatory framework. You'd know about that. It's not a criminal investigation against any private individual or any private company. And arguably, the government or the agencies have a right to do so.
I think all of us are trying to put a question mark on the wisdom and the credibility of the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court is there, when the matter is sub judice, it is absolutely unwise to even think of the constitution of a joint parliamentary committee. What would the joint parliamentary committee do at this juncture? In fact, let's all wait for the report. And this is a very serious matter which has taken place in London. So I think the Congress and Rahul Gandhi have to come out and apologize in the Lok Sabha first. So I think
Jyotimani ji,
they are also trying to divert the
will Rahul
attention of
Gandhi
all of us.
apologize? And I asked this question to you rather provocatively, that the question that the BJP is raising is, and Aparajita ji said it in the first part of her argument, that when you take oath as the member of the parliament, it's a constitutional office in some sense, you in some way affirm to uphold India's sovereignty, integrity and
How happy were you overall with the way the fourth test went? I mean, we were completely surprised and shocked at Indore. The pitches came under question. Overall, though, do you think this series has prepared India well enough for the WTC final? Your thoughts?
Look, when we are talking about international players, you should be able to adapt any country. As simple as that. That's what my take is. India is playing at home. Maybe Australia might be playing at home. They prepare the pitches according to their strengths and right. That's what we have done. So I'm not surprised at all. So if you're an international, if you're coming from outside to play in India, you should be prepared to face spinners. You should be well equipped to play. You should have that skill to play spinners and to know how to adapt to a given condition. As simple as that. So I don't think there is anything to complain here. I'm definitely not complaining about the quality of pitches. I'm pretty happy. We have prepared the pitches to our strength and to the opposition weakness. It's their weakness. Going forward, yes, as I said again, it's about adaptability. So since we have qualified to the WTC final, where we'll be facing Australia at Oval in England. So they know the conditions there as well. So they're all quality players, and they know how to adapt themselves to a given condition, given situation. And they're all proven cricketers. As simple as that. They have a lot of potential, and they know what to do and what sort of a combination that they need to be having. So I think it's going to be a great final this time around. This time around, yeah, very closely and fiercely, fierce competition in this final.
Speaking of the combination, you were a vocal critic, if I may say so, of the fact that KL Rahul was getting such a long rope as far as the test team is concerned, and possibly because of the criticism that was piling on, but also because of the performances on the field, he was dropped midway. Do you think now the team has found the perfect balance as far as the batting lineup is concerned, and this is the batting lineup that should carry forward to the WTC final?
Look, I've got great respect and regard to KL Rahul, and I've seen him from under 16. Okay, he's around 30 now, getting 30 or just 30. I'm not sure. So, but the point is, I've been seeing him last 15 years, right? So, and having seen him, having worked with him at different stages, whether it's for Karnataka, whether it's at the National Cricket Academy, for different age groups. Yes, he was given a long rope, fair enough, for the kind of talent and potential that he has, but he has not lived up to the talent or the potential that is there. I'm sure he's going to come good, in the next few months. But having said, look, I've not been harsh. I had to say what I felt. That's about it. And I've got nothing against anybody, anywhere at any point in time. It's just that whatever I feel, I just say it, and few people take it, few people won't take it. Up to them. But as long as I'm pretty clear, this is what I'm fine with it. Again, it's not just about that I was talking about KL Rahul. I spoke about who was doing extremely well, and I was talking about. Look, when I say it's, I'm talking about the Indian team and not with respect to any particular individual. So, because this is very, very close to my heart, and even my all to this team I have played whenever representing the country. So it's just a feeling that has come out, but I've made sure that I've not crossed the line. As simple as that. So few people have taken it very seriously, and few people have criticized me for. But look, I have never been, and I think getting personal is not the way to go.
Absolutely. But you're confident about the Indian team's combination going on from here and the chances for the WTC final?
Of course, yes, without a doubt. And they've got the best minds there. Considering the team management with Rahul Dravid being there, I think he is he understands the game. He reads the game extremely well. Time.
राहुल गांधी, आपको देश के खिलाफ इस पाप के लिए देश की जनता से माफी मांगनी ही होगी।